Hello again. I thought I'd just recap on my previous video that I made on the run of World War Three, of a potential World War Three. Now, yeah, the idea is right. I just had an interesting addition there as well. Uh, so if we were to look at this again and go through the video again, then effectively what I'd say is that what happens in the UK effectively relies heavily on what the Scandinavians do and whether they go into coalition with the Russians or not. Whether they go into coalition with the Russians or not. Now that the UK is largely run by the Russians due to Brexit, in there, they own a lot of our property, etc., things like that. So if you were to look at it, then effectively, let's go down to the beach here. It's a bit nicer to talk about this sort of thing, isn't it? So if you were to look at this properly, then effectively if you were to look at this properly, then it's a largely democratic Europe pushing against a dictatorship Russia at the Eastern Bloc. Germany have largely remilitarized. Now, if the Scandinavians go into coalition with the Russians, then they're going to pop straight over that eastern bit of water over to Great Britain and come and invade us, because that's exactly what Putin's going to be thinking effectively. So, yeah. That's exactly what Putin's going to be thinking. Now, if we were to look at this, so yeah, that's exactly what Putin's going to be thinking. Now, given that the Russians already own a large part of the UK. We're the fifth largest economy in the world now after France. We're a nice little trade hub. He owns most of it anyway. He'll be thinking they're just going to invade us anyway if they went into coalition with the Scandinavians, which is pretty much, it's largely not going to happen, but it could. So if you were to look at this from the point of view of Brexit, again, we're outside of the European Union. Now, if the Europeans wanted to attack us over the border from France, then yeah, or even from Germany, they've remilitarized now. There's a top heavy bit over that bit of geography of Germany over round to the right hand side of the UK. Now, with Germany being largely democratic and us going into, say, some form of dictatorship, maybe. Now, one thing I did want to mention was if the UK were to play this right, if they were to play it correctly, I'd say that I'd say that it's going to be largely based around a strong defence strategy. Now, we have one of the best, we have one of the strongest defence strategies in the world, if not the strongest, apart from maybe the Gurkhas. Now, that is pretty much how it goes. I know some Gurkhas even work with the people in the United Kingdom, so I mean we do have with forces in the United Kingdom, so I mean we do have a spectacular defence strategy. So I would say that where else should I think of? Right, so China and Russia at the border is a stalemate effectively, because that bit of land always is. They're two hugely large land masses, and that's always a stalemate across there. Now, if you were to look at this from the US would then go to war with China over over who who's the most powerful country, things like that. Now, if we were to look at this another way, then if you were to look at this another way, then if you were to look at this another way, then the Far East would probably go to war with China as well, because they're like alongside the UK. Now, where else? Maybe the Chinese would go into coalition with the Russians, and that would be the large landmass there. That would look like a strong potential. So I'd say that's probably at the stalemate. So I'd say the Chinese would probably go into coalition with the Russians there as dictatorship communist countries that swing to the right. And that's swinging back over to the right now. So yeah, it's these two large land masses against these sort of democratic Europe. Britain is largely going to be playing a very should be playing a strong defence strategy. Now Europe and, as I said, Europe and Russia, Europe will be pushing against Russia at the border. Now South America will largely go into its own fight over land. Now if say Donald Trump got into power again, which he very well could do in 4 years, he's still ahead of the Republican Party. If he got into power again, then you know, they may invade Mexico, but South America is largely very largely goes, you know, that you know, they largely have good political standpoints with the US as far as I'm aware. Now the Australians, I don't know much about Australian politics, but I know there's a lot about for example, say certain people's rights, things like that. Now I think they could largely have, you know, if it all kicks off, it all kicks off, so they could largely have their own war in what's it called again? Australasia? Oceania, whatever it's called, the Australias. Now, with that in mind, I think that with the Scottish largely, this is what I wanted to add mainly, was and get some of my ums out of the sentences, talking about this very serious thing that got me a bit shook up. Now, if the Scottish and the Irish both vote for independence, there could be a civil war based around. There could be a civil war within Britain within a World War III scenario, if you know what I mean, with the Scottish and the Irish against the Welsh and maybe the English. Or the Welsh would maybe side with them, I'm not sure, but I think it would largely be the Scottish and the Irish against the Welsh and the English. Now that would largely be what it looks like for in a World War III scenario. I'm sorry I said give it over to the Europeans in my last video. It's just how I sort of feel on Brexit. Now I would also say that it wouldn't necessarily be a largely bad thing to do, considering the amount of people that could potentially die if something like that were to happen. Now so yeah, that is my sort of forecast on what's going on with that potential World War III there. I'm not warmongering here, it's just a potential forecast for what World War III would potentially look like. I don't particularly think it is going to happen, but you know, it's always a scenario. Now the end game of that, which has been predicted before, is that Russia and the United States of America end up sending nuclear missiles to each other. So we really don't want this to happen. So yeah, the politicians kind of need to sort their act out here, please, because it's not a very good idea. Okie dokie, alright, thank you very much, goodbye.